Yeah.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the valedictorian of this special class, Zach Brookler.
Hello, parents, family, friends, teachers, administrators, and fellow graduates. I am honored to have the opportunity to speak during this momentous occasion. I could talk about how I got here today, but truthfully, it just involved a lot of studying and a tremendous lack of sleep. So I could also talk about how great our class is, but I think that throughout our 4 years, the students you see here today have already proven that. What I would like to address is what I've learned in high school, not necessarily academically, but rather more personally. There's an old saying that everyone knows: don't judge a book by its cover. Now, I'm not going to talk about that phrase, because it's a cliche, and I know that my English teachers would hate that. What I would like to add to this phrase, however, is that it is often worthwhile to revisit a book from childhood later in life. You might find something there you didn't see before when you look upon it with the greater maturity and experience of an older age. The same can be said of people. To put it simply, people change, especially during adolescence. Of course, everyone knows that no one stays the same during the course of their life. But this is something we often forget, almost all of us having come from the same middle school. Not only that, so many of us are isolated by the barriers created by things like one's lunch period or the level of classes one is placed in. These may seem like small barriers, but they hide the students of our class from one another. In fact, not too long ago, I was asked if I still went to Glen High School. What I propose, however, is that people change behind those barriers. Seeing or glancing at each other in the halls, we don't all stop to consider that the person we once knew may not be the same person we now imagine we are looking at. Moreover, the behavior of the classmate that we see in class every day may not reflect the true character of that classmate. The harsh person that we always felt intimidated by may not be a kind-hearted individual. The cold classmate that seemed so closed may now be open-minded. The shy, awkward person that we knew as a middle schooler may not be so timid and strange anymore. The quiet, studious classmate that seems boring and only speaks to answer questions may actually be a far more eccentric and humorous individual than anyone could imagine. Hopefully, as we have grown up and matured as a class, we have all moved a little bit outside of our comfort zones and beyond those artificial barriers to get to know one another as individuals. Going forward in life, cherish the people you know and love, but also make the time to get to know others. Get to know the quiet kid and help them to speak to you. Tonight is a night for celebration and for spending our last high school moments with friends. However, I encourage all 187 of you tonight during our festivities to go talk to a classmate you have not talked to since middle school, or that you perhaps have never talked to. On this, our last night together as a class, I encourage you to reach out to each member of our incredible class of 2015. You might be surprised by what you'll find. Thank you.